I've been told to go to hell more times than I can count. But this time, I'm actually going. My name's Bobby Dollar, sometimes known as Delorial, and of course, hell isn't a great place for someone like me. I'm an angel. They don't like my kind down there, not even the slightly fallen variety. But they have my girlfriend, who happens to be a beautiful demon named Casimira, Countess of Cold Hands. Why does an angel have a demon girlfriend? Well, certainly not because it helps my career. She's being held hostage by one of the nastiest, most powerful demons in all of the netherworld, Eligor, Grand Duke of Hell. He already hates me, and he'd like nothing more than to get his hands on me and rip my immortal soul right out of my borrowed oh so mortal body. But wait, it gets better. Not only do I have to sneak into hell, make my way across thousands of miles of terror and suffering to reach Pandemonium, capital of the fiery depths, but then I have to deal with Kaz right out from under. I have to steal Kaz right out from under Eligor's burning eyes and smuggle her out again, past demon soldiers, hellhounds, and all of the murderous creatures imprisoned there for eternity. And even if I somehow manage to escape hell, I'm also being stalked by an undead psychopath named Smiler, who's been following me for weeks. And did I mention that he can't be killed? So if I somehow survive hell, elude Grand Duke and all his hideous minions, and make it back to the real world, I'll still be the most hunted soul in creation. But at least I'll have Kaz. Gotta have something to look forward to, right? So just pour me that damn drink, will ya? I've got somewhere to go. Alright. For those of you who don't know, this is actually a sequel to another book that I've actually already talked about before, called The Dirty Streets of Heaven. Another book that like I said, I talked about it, and I loved it, and I highly recommended it, and I still do. And this is this like that. And while those of you who have seen that, this book is just as great and fantastic as that one. Obviously, the story is, I already explained it to you. You know, Bobby Dollar is an angel who goes to hell to find his demon girlfriend, and I have to say that the depiction of hell in this book is the most interesting depiction that I have seen or read in a long time, since Dante's Inferno. It's just such an interesting place with all of its cities, towns, the politics, the ecology, and even religion. Yes, I said religion in hell. And no, I'm not talking about Satanism or devil worship. I'm talking about a particular branch of Christianity, actually, in hell. They're called lifters. And they believe that if they keep themselves moral and just and stuff, then they could one day, get themselves out of hell and into heaven, which I thought was kind of interesting. And they believe that it's not even like it's just restricted to them, but that even Satan himself could, one day, lift himself back out of hell and, find redemption and forgiveness and stuff. And this was just, really interesting, and although I guess I can't say I'm entirely surprised that something like that would happen. People would try and cling to hope, considering they would how long people would be in hell for. But yeah, it's just a really interesting place, and looking at all the stuff there, and there's also plenty of interesting characters. There's Gob and Rip Rash. There's like this Gob who's like this like just random who's like this kid who's like in his mom's womb when she committed suicide or not suicide, she just died. And like their souls were linked, and so Gob wound up being dragged down to hell. So even though like being technically innocent, he was still just stuck in hell. And there's like the character Riprash, who's like this sea captain, and who's the one who's constantly spreading the word, you know. And yeah, and like even then there are like other characters. Those are just like a couple examples of the slightly less of the good hell citizens, you know. And you know, considering there's a character that is in the last book called the Galu, who's like this demon who's like summed up by Eligor to like hunt after him, and he was this constant forbidding presence that was just constantly just hanging over our main characters' heads like throughout the entire book. And while the character Smiler might seem like just a rip-off of that at first, just like a repeat of that, you know, even Smiler wound up being kind of an interesting character, being like a really interesting character, especially when you finally learn like Smiler's main motivations, you know, which is actually really interesting. And yeah, just once again, you know, great story, like really interesting characters, very interesting depiction of hell, with like how it's like just a series of caves in like varying levels, one on top of the other, and yeah, and just everything was just so creative and chaotic, like how like there'd be like how different cities work, like Abaddon, for example, which is like this city of where like constantly tunnels are being dug and redug and filled in, and buildings are collapsing, and more buildings are being built upon those collapsed buildings, like even with people who are still, you know, screaming in agony all underneath. And yeah, I just can't stop talking about how interesting of a place that is, you know. That's just like one example. There's also various nightmarish creatures living in hell, you know, and well, yeah, that it's just, you know, my rating or straight 1 out of 5 is full on 5. Highly recommended, just as much as the first book, you know, and of course there's the and when Sleeping Late on Judgment Day comes out, the third in the trilogy, you know, I'm gonna be there. Like I'm gonna be like looking for it like a freaking hawk. You know, I'm going to be like reading it like the second I get a chance to, because I'm interested to see how this trilogy ends, you know. It's just a fantastic book. Loved it. Loved its characters. I'd still recommend reading Dirty Streets of Heaven first, so you get a better idea what's going on, though I don't think it's entirely necessary. They explain everything fairly well in here, but it's still recommended to read Dirty Streets of Heaven first, then this, you know, you know, get a firm layout of like characters and so if the overall universe, and yeah, just another great, highly recommended book. It is highly recommended for any of you to read, and well, yeah. Anyway, next time we're going to be taking a look at robots and a robot detective. Until then, see you later. Keep it fruity, y'all.